Hello and welcome to the Women Fantasy Authors YouTube channel. My guest today is Wendy Simpson, and she writes under W.A. Simpson. And welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'm very glad to be here.
I found you and your books on a website that gives out advanced reader copies for people that do reviews. And as you if people are looking over your shoulder, the book on the right, Tarotmancer, caught my eye, not only because of the beautiful cover, but because the heroine has a magic tarot deck, or she uses her magic through tarot, and that was fascinating to me. So I want to start out talking about why you chose to use tarot as the magical vehicle, and how does she use her cards?
Well, I wanted to do something a little different outside of the norm. I know there are characters that use tarot, but I thought maybe if she got some practice and some training like she does in the book, Harper would be able to use those tarot cards to help her solve issues, or to give her the strength or the magic or something that she could do. Kind of like calling, and this is how I describe what she does. She can call on the spirits of the cards to help her out whenever she needs them.
Yeah, that's a very interesting part of the story, and it becomes very important as the story progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the story, you're actually Harper's doing readings, and there's various cards coming up. Are these cards from a real deck, or did you create something just for your story?
I created them just for the story. There are a couple that are actually in the tarot deck under the same name, like, for example, the Reaper. And
Right.
I have it pretty much meaning the same thing as it does in the tarot deck, but everything else is homemade.
I thought it might be. I mean, I
Mhm.
dabble a little bit in tarot, but I'm not an expert by any means. But I thought that's
Mhm.
partly why it intrigued me
Mhm.
to your story. Uh, Harper, I love the character of Harper, and partly
You.
because she is tough, she's street smart, she
Mhm.
she walks the tough streets, and nobody bothers her because she has a lot of respect.
Mhm.
Okay. Now the story opens where a man is on the gallows getting ready to be hung for a
Yes.
theft, and her
Mhm.
cards tell her that he is not guilty. So
Mhm.
she saves this guy,
Mhm.
Red, who is a
Red.
shapeshifter. So the story gets interesting really quickly. Tell us about Red and his shapeshifter abilities, and how does he move between worlds?
Okay. Well, Red is actually based on the old fable of Renard the Fox, and the author of that escapes me right now, the
Yeah.
name, but you can just look it up and it's all over. In the original story, Renard the Fox, of course, is this wily, cunning, anthropomorphic fox who loves to play tricks on, everybody in the kingdom. It Renard the Fox actually takes place in the real world originally. But I use the basis of that real world fable to create the Kingdom of Vale. And the shape shifting made a little more sense to me. That's something that I added myself, because then he's got this, he can be totally human, he can be half fox, half human, and then he can be full fox as the situation appears. Now, in the original fable of Renard the Fox, he actually gets away with everything that he does. And when the people take him before the king and complain, Renard talks a good talk and walks a good walk, and then the king says, "Okay, you're fine. You're not guilty of anything." So I figured eventually this this guy's gonna have to answer for everything. You can't have somebody just doing stuff over and over and over again and never having karma hit them. So the old king dies. The new king, who is the son, comes up and says, "Okay, well, I'm not my father. Renard is toast. I want you to go
Right.
and
A time
get
of
him."
reckoning. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So that's where that came from.
part of the irony of the story is Harper saves him
Mm-hmm.
because he's been accused of being a thief, and of that
Mm-hmm.
particular incident, he was innocent, but he is,
Yeah.
of course, a thief, which he finds out pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And then the next bit of action, I'm going to try to walk through this without giving away too many spoilers. There's an
Mhm.
artifact. He's a thief. It's valuable, so he's going to go steal it. And he asks Harper to come along, I think because he says you can have part of the loot.
Yes.
Harper's
Mhm.
not a thief. So why does Harper decide to go along with him on this adventure?
Because if you recall, she read his fortune with the cards, and it basically said he's going to be in big trouble if he goes to do this. And of course, there's this part of Harper that says, okay, it's really none of my business. If he wants to get in trouble, he can go get in trouble. But then the other half is like, if something does happen, I'll feel bad. So I'll just go with him. And like you just said, Harper's not a thief. So when he says, I'll give you a cut, she's like, no, I'll just go along to make sure that you don't get into too much trouble. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, they get this thing, and I'm not going to reveal what happens because that's too much of a spoiler. But then suddenly, Harper's getting visions of evil and horror coming to her, and it's something seeping up from the underworld, and it's big and dark and bad. So tell us about what you've called the rot, that what's coming up to threaten them.
Okay. And to learn more about the rot, you want to, of course, read Tinderbox too, because that's where I first introduced it. But it's not necessary. You can read the book separately. But the rot is basically this force that came about when all of the good fae in the Riven Isles, way back in the day, there was this big war. The bad fae, like goblins, ogres, all those, they lost the war, and then they got pushed down into the like deep depths of underground. Now, even though they're evil, they still want to live lives up above in the sunshine, and all the emotion that they are feeling has culminated into this dark, like oily, inky force that is trying to force its way back up into the light so that all the other evil fae can come up into the light again.
Right. Well, and that story's outlined in the first novel. Okay. Well,
Yes.
I have to get back and read that. And we are. By the way, I didn't mention we are in the your world of the Riven
Isles.
The Riven Isles, where this series of stories is taking place.
Yes.
And we have the upper world, the Riven Isles, and then we have the underneath where Reynard is from, and then way down where the really dark stuff is.
Yeah, where the really dark stuff
so we've
is.
got these three different levels. And as you said earlier, Reynard is getting called back to account for his previous crimes.
Yes.
So Harper ends up in the middle of this because she gets pulled down because I think she's being used as the lure. There's a bit of a romance, or I don't want to say a romance that early on, but there's certainly attraction happening where they're starting to worry, where Red and Harper are starting to worry about each other's well-being. So she gets drawn down, and she's initially held against her will. Who are the people that she's involved with down there? It's the king. The king is behind the plot.
Yeah, the king is the one who wants him back. He sends Aislinn and Bruin the bear, who is an actual character from the original fairy tale. In fact, Bruin is the one who got the brunt of Reynard's jokes. So of course he's real eager to go get Reynard. And so it turns out what got them a little closer was because, if you remember, Ica is the other, she's a tarotmancer too, and that's how the two of them got together. And Ica didn't really like the way they were using Haven. Get down. My cat's here. She's going. Ica didn't really like the way they were using, Harper. And she just, she's just like, okay, Harper, you come with me. I'll teach you how to use your powers. Meanwhile, the king, all you other guys, you can do whatever you want to with Renard. And she's still worried, but now she's like, okay, well, he's gotten me into this trouble, and now I just want to go home.
Right.
So I've got a chance to learn under this other tarotmancer. I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to go home.
I liked that you had those two together, kind of working together, and that there was a a relationship between the two where they were able to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Taromancers. That was a
Yeah.
nice introduction of the character. Another figure that came up several times, you called the match girl.
Mm-hmm.
Who is who is she? What's her symbolism? That was very interesting to me.
Do you remember? It's another Hans Christian. A lot of my
Oh,
works
okay. See,
are
I'm
Hans Christian
not up
Andersen.
on my fairy tales very much.
The Little Match Girl is really kind of a sad story. She is this poor little girl who's, living a really bad life. Her father sends her out with this thing of matches so that she can sell for money. Unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the fairy tale, even though I don't want to spoil the fairy tale, but
Yeah.
in the end,
Yeah.
she passes away. She's lighting the matches, and she sees a vision in the matches of her grandmother, who comes and takes her to heaven with her. And so the symbol of the match girl here is someone who combats darkness by using the light. She basically symbolizes innocence and purity, and with her matches she can like lead the way, and then whenever like darkness comes and encroaches, she has the match, it brings out the light and it can chase the darkness away.
Yeah, I was interested in her character because she certainly shows up in some very important parts in the story.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
Let's see, we talked a little bit about this developing romance,
Mm-hmm.
the two, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, they're so very different. I'm wondering why you think Harper was attracted to Red. I mean, is it that he's a bad boy and I was just curious about why you brought Harper in connection with Red.
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's in a way it is because he's the bad boy. If you see me looking down, it's because my cat is up here and she wants attention. So yeah.
Is it Cinnamon or Spice that's with us?
Spice.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's her. I'd pick her up and show her, but she really doesn't like being picked up.
Okay.
Yeah, I just made this video and she was messing around again, and I picked her up and she was like, put me down. Okay, but back to the story. It is in the sense of the whole bad boy thing, but it's also a little bit opposites attract. Red is this, how can I describe Red? He's this like gung-ho, acts before he thinks, just an adventurous type, while Harper is a little bit more settled. She like you said, she's strong, she kicks ass, excuse my language, but also there was this whole opposites attract thing, which is why she kind of got into Red after a while.
Yeah, and that whole thing about they're fighting to save the world together. So I guess that builds a pretty big bond.
Yes.
And for me, it was obvious why why Red would be attracted to Harper, because she's such a strong,
Yes.
and capable in her own right, and
Mhm.
very strong with her magic. So that made a lot of sense to me. So I'm glad that it happened. I think that it ends up being a really, really good match in the end. I was thinking about Harper and her involvement in the story and how she kind of gets drawn in by accident. So she seemed to me to be a bit of a reluctant hero throughout all of this. So why does it matter? Why does this all matter so much to her? And why do the people in the story matter so much to Harper?
Well, she knows this, if the rot succeeds, it's going to first take out all these innocent people. And then she's thinking about her family. She's thinking about Pops and her two brothers and everyone in the town that she knows, because the town is very close knit. The people who do the laboring and the work, you've seen that it's a very close, tight knit place. People know each other. Harbor's well known. And she's gotten to know all these wonderful personalities. And she's like, if I don't do something, the rot's just gonna wipe that all out, pure and simple.
Right. Now, there's a scene in the story where there's a well and there's things happening around this well. Now, is that like that's the portal going down, isn't it? Is
That's
that
one of
correct?
the entrances, yeah.
It's one of the entrances. And so
Mhm,
there's a lot of action. And we didn't talk yet about the vine, which is another
mhm,
entity or a piece of the world that is
mhm.
being attacked. Is that the like the energy that holds the upper world together and keeps things safe? How
Yes.
would you describe the vine?
The celestial vine is basically the source of all magic. I'm sure you've seen in other books where there's this certain source that everybody can draw upon. Unfortunately, the bad guys can draw upon it too. The celestial vine is after the vine from Jack and the Beanstalk. You've heard him talked about as the
Right.
farm boy.
Yes.
And the used to be whole one continent. And when the vine fell, I figured, and I got this from Tinderbox, something that big falling on the land is going to do some damage, which is why we ended up having you know, the overworld, and then underneath, and then that farther, it's called down below. And yeah, but everyone can draw on the celestial vine. And if they draw too much on the vine, then the vine like marks them and says, hey, I'm going to let you draw on me, but you got to do something for me too.
Yeah, I really, really like how you've drawn in all these pieces from all these different mythologies and fairy stories. I mean, I didn't pick up, I definitely got the idea about the vine from, Jack
Mm-hmm.
and the Beanstalk and all of that. But the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff was, I guess I need to read some more fairy tales, but that's a really nice part of the story. What I would
Mm-hmm.
like to do now is do a share screen and show your information so people can see how to connect with you. I want to make
Okay.
sure people know where to find your information. And hold on just a second, and I will do that. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Now we're here. Now we're here. So I want you to toot your horn a little bit. Tinderbox won an award. Yes.
Yes, it actually won the 2022 uh Gold Indie Awards from Forward Reviews. It's basically like the best book for the 2022 Indie Awards Forward Reviews. And for a little while, it was up the top 100 Black and African American fantasy novels up on Amazon.
Well,
It's
that's
not there
wonderful.
now, but it was.
Yeah, congratulations. And
Thank
look
you.
at these incredibly wonderful covers.
Mm-hmm.
And notice the crossed swords, and
Mm-hmm.
it says badass women of color protecting their world. And she's
Yep.
kidding. That's exactly what these books are about, and they're wonderful. So please check out Wendy's website and her books. I just
Mm-hmm.
it's a wonderful, wonderful stuff. Okay. And let's see. I think we've got two books. You've got another book. You just got signed for your third book in the series. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes. It's called The Hatter's Daughter.
Okay.
And of course, I'm sure you know where that comes from.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
But there's no Alice. This time it
Oh,
is, I
okay.
know, this time it's a young woman named Faith. And again, the rot is trying to break its way into their version of Wonderland. I call it Brigantia. And because Faith has the power of transmutation. So the rot is thinking we can use Faith to break down the barrier stopping us from getting farther up into underneath. So she is teamed with the Prince of Hearts, the Queen of Hearts. firstborn, and they have to travel to this other land that they were told to go to get some armor so that they can have that to fight the rot as well. But yeah, I'm already on chapter 10. I am writing
Okay,
it.
good. Okay, so
Yeah.
we can expect it. Okay, so we can expect
Yes.
it sometime, maybe mid.
I'm
And
hoping end of next year,
yeah,
end
okay.
of
Well, 'cause
2024, mid or end.
okay. Well,
Hmm.
I know when people read the first two books, they're going to be anxious for number three, because I certainly
Hmm.
will be, but I will go back and read Tinderbox so that I've got the whole story. I would
Thank
encourage,
you.
I'm going to have Wendy's website link below the recording here. Please go and sign up for her newsletter, and you can keep up with her stories and her progress on her writing.
Mhm.
And
And I won't spam you.
no, she doesn't. She just sends out good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
if you're enjoying the interviews, please press the like button. You can also follow this channel, and I'll be bringing on other fabulous authors like Wendy, women fantasy authors that are doing great things in the fantasy genre. So thank you for joining us. Wendy, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and talk about your work. I'm excited about book 3, and maybe we'll have you come back and talk about that when it's out.
Perfect. Likewise,
Okay.
it was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks again for coming, and thank you all for joining us.
Mhm. Bye now.